Hello, I'm Dr. Brad Holmberg, founder of InvisalignDoctors.com. Have you ever had a case come back with a lot of aligners, more than you thought there would be? Here's a case where there's 36 aligners. So let's take a look at this case and see why there are so many. I mean, it's just a crowding case. You can see there's some anterior crowding and there's some lower anterior crowding. So you wouldn't think it would take 36 aligners to treat this case. Let's look at the movements. Here's the right side. Look at the posterior movements. Look at all the movements of the posterior teeth. Look at the shifting or the distalization of all the upper posterior teeth. And the blue and black dots are part of what we call TMA assessment, tooth movement assessment. You have to have this highlighted, see that blue line there, in order for these to show. And it's telling you and notifying you that these are complex movements. There's complex movements on the left side, a lot of movements. So is it possible that it's the complicated and unnecessary posterior movements creating all these aligners? One way you can tell is by using the 3D controls. I'm turning on the 3D controls, and let's cancel the posterior movements and then just add back only the necessary ones. And then we'll run live update and see how many aligners there are after doing that. To cancel, I'm going to right click and make all of the posterior teeth unmovable. Teeth are shifting back to their original position. Notice when I compare to original now, all the shifting and everything, and all those movements, and all the dots are gone, by the way. You can see the arches shifting. See, this patient has really nice arches and a nice occlusion, so there's just no reason to change all that. So I'm going to leave the second molars unmovable, and I'm just going to right click and make the first molars and the premolar teeth movable. Notice they're back to the original position. I'm going to do that on the right side. Okay, let's look at the upper arch and see if there's any movements we need. I mean, this looks really good here. I would say there might be just a little distal out here. I mean, you could use mesial hinge right here, mesial hinge. First of all, you highlight that tooth, and you could just bring in the distal a little bit, I suppose. That would be all right. There's a little rotation here. You can use the rotation. It's distal out, mesial in, so you could go like that. And you could maybe use a little crown tip just to bring it out. And to set the arch better, you could use mesial hinge here and just bring the cuspid distal in a little bit. And then you can go back on the bottom and see. You can see because you moved out a little bit. Buccal, you have to just move the opposing teeth a little bit. Okay. Let's look at the occlusal contacts. So there's a few high contacts. Let's just auto-resolve those. It really hardly any movements to resolve those. I'm just letting the algorithms resolve those. So the only movements now occurring are the ones that I programmed in, barely anything. And it'll be interesting to see what this will do to the number of aligners for this case. Will it shorten the case? Well, I think it will. The only way to know is to run live update. So I'm going to run live update and we'll restage everything. I'll be back in a minute after this. It takes a couple minutes to run, and then we'll look at the treatment plan after just simplifying those posterior movements. Okay, live update was run, and we're down to 16 aligners, but only 15 active aligners for the upper arch and 16 for the lower arch. Let's take a look at the movements. So there's very minimal amount of movements of posterior teeth, both sides. There are no blue or black dots. So it looks like all I did was work with the posterior teeth. I simplified the movement, so it looks like it was the reason for all those aligners was in fact unnecessary and complex movements of posterior teeth. So this case would have taken a lot longer if if you didn't run live update and if you didn't simplify the movements. It would also take really long, probably a really long refinement to finish this case because those movements that you saw in this treatment plan here will not be expressed fully. And when that happens, the occlusion just is really unsettled, and you need long refinements to correct the occlusion. You got to try to move back teeth into the proper interocclusal relationships with their opposing teeth. So this would not have worked out. This case could have ended up with a compromised outcome with occlusion. And it only took 17. Notice one other thing after running live update. After simplifying the treatment plan, notice the attachments over here. There's nothing wrong with those attachments, but they had them even on the second molar, almost all the posterior teeth, to help with those complex movements. So let's compare attachments here. This looks a lot better. You could add attachments if you wanted, but they're really not necessary. Otherwise, the algorithms would have added back attachments when you live update. So this is a really important step to simplify posterior tooth movements in your treatment plans, to shorten the treatment time, and to improve the outcome of your cases. I hope that this is helpful for you.